this is Gilbert Gottfried, and this is Gilbert Gottfried's amazing Colossal podcast with my co-host Frank Santopadre. We're once again recording at Nutmeg with our engineer Frank Verderosa. And our guest this week is a true Renaissance man. He's a singer, songwriter, musician, producer, voice artist, and even a former publisher of the Paris Review. Oh, a highbrow, eh? You know his singing voice from dozens of popular television commercials, including spots for Coke, Dr. Pepper, Coppertone, KFC, Tang, Lifesavers, and McDonald's. Trust us, you know them. While still a teenager, he was working in the famed Brill Building and recording demos for some of music's biggest stars, including Connie Francis and Neil Sedaka, and touring with acts like the Hollies, the Rolling Stones. In 1969, he sang lead vocals on two of the year's biggest records, Tracy by the Cufflinks, and the number one song of that year, the Archie Sugar Sugar. In his 50-year career, he's worked with and alongside people like Bobby Darin, Johnny Mathis, Gene Pitney, Cher, Carole King, Ray Charles, John Denver, Pat Benatar, and our friend Paul Schaefer, and of course, Barry Manilow, producing a string of best-selling albums and 18 consecutive hit records, including the number one singles, Mandy, I Write the Songs, and Looks Like We Made It. You want more? He's also the Tony-winning producer of numerous Broadway plays like Ain't Misbehavin', Neil Simon's Little Me, and Children of a Lesser God. But like many great artists, his one unfulfilled career goal is to sing a duet with me, Gilbert Gottfried. Even if he doesn't know it yet.
Poor guy.
Please welcome to the show a man of multiple talents, Staten Island's own Ron Dante.
Well, hello there. I am exhausted. I should be so tired. I should go home and go to sleep for a while. I can't believe I did any of that because I'm always looking ahead, so I don't very rarely look back. So this was like listening to that. I said, did I do that?
You did.
Did I do it? I think I did.
You did,
It was
man.
I just took every opportunity that ever came around, Gilbert. I just came, when they said, can you? I said, yes. Can you sing? Yes. Can you dance? Can you act? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And then I learned how to do it after I said yes. And it was a rough road for a while, but I got it.
Yeah,
Anyway, I'm a huge fan of yours.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, wow.
I am. I saw you when you were starting out in the Village and some of the clubs in New York City. I came to one of your earliest performances, and even then I said, this fella's got something. He's really, really good. It was before your voice changed a bit.
Wow, he was really young.
I hit puberty. Wow, that's great.
Well, he started when he was 15, Ron. I don't know how far back you saw him.
Well, you were pretty far along. You had your act really down pat. You were really funny, and the people were really roaring in this room. I saw it down. It was a Catch a Rising Star or one of those places. But it was great to see you then, and you've gone on to do unbelievable things.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
And now tell us about you came from Staten Island. You grew up there. And what is your real name?
Well, I was born another name. I was born Carmine Granito.
A paisano.
Paisano.
Or as I like to call him, a fucking guinea.
That's he works with two Italians and abuses us every week, Ron.
I don't mind. I know where you're coming from. Both parents were Napolitan. They both. My dad sang a little bit. I grew up in Staten Island. It's like 80% Italian, so you're very safe on Staten Island unless you do something wrong, like bet the wrong bet. But I grew up there, and I was lucky to that was my name. But I decided to change it when I was about 14. Because all the singers I idolized, Bobby Darin, Frankie Avalon, Bobby Rydell, everybody was changing their names. they would get stage names. So I figured, well, I'll choose a name. So I was a big fan of Spencer Tracy. And in the movies, and he had a movie called Dante's Inferno, I think.
Oh, wow.
And that's where I said, I love that name. It's got color. I can use red on my guitar. So I chose that name as my stage name. And I idolized one of the best guitarists in Staten Island. His name was Ronnie Anderson. And I said, I think I'll call myself Ronnie. So at the beginning of my career, I was Ronnie, until I changed my name when I was about 20 to Ron.
Well, tell us how you got into music in the first place, because it's interesting, because it involved a childhood accident.
Yeah, I was a very active kid, but I was a klutz. So I was always like breaking bones. I broke my arm. I broke my leg. I got an arrow stuck in my head once, all before I was 14. and I busted my arm, and the doctor said, you busted the growing bone in your wrist, and if you don't exercise, it'll be stiff the rest of your life. So he said, you either squeeze a ball or maybe take up an instrument. So I was a huge Elvis fan. I'd seen all his movies and, Heartbreak, all the stuff that he had done. And my dad said, well, get you a little guitar. You play guitar, you move your wrist every day. And that's what started my singing and my songwriting.
Isn't that cool?
This and when I heard that story,
Mm-hmm.
you have something in common with Larry from the Three Stooges.
I can't wait to hear this.
Yes. Larry from the Three Stooges, I think his father was like a jeweler or something.
Uh-huh.
And they used some sort of acid to test if something was real gold. And Larry accidentally burned his arm really badly. And the doctor told him, he said, you got to exercise that if you want your arm back. And first he suggested prize fighting. And Larry from the Three Stooges won the prize fight, but his parents were against it. So then the doctor said, well, why don't you take up the violin?
That's why he took up the violin?
Yeah.
Wow.
And Larry became an excellent violinist, and he played in about 2 of the Stooges movies.
I just loved it. This accident led to his career.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not an accident, though. It's kind of meant in people's lives that they're going on the wrong road. All of a sudden, you get something happens and you're on your right road again. That's what happened to him. It happened to me. Yeah. I don't know what I was going to do. I got into my dad's schmata business. He made car coats for kids, and he told me, he said, if you don't sing, I'm going to bring you to the factory and let you, watch over the little old ladies putting the coats together. But it just happened. I hurt my arm, and that was the beginning.
Did you get into music? Were you 15 when you formed? You put the band together? Was it the Persuaders? Do I have the timing of this right? You were 15. Right. Gilbert was 15 when he started in show business. You guys have that in common.
Early starters, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
You knew early where you wanted to go. So did I. There was no doubt. I remember when I was 14, I played a New Year's Eve party, and I sang. And the fella gave me $75 cash. And my dad was making $45 cash a week. So I said, this is the business I need to be in.
Very smart.
There's no doubt about it. There's the business. I love it. If I can make $75 on every Saturday night, I'm made. I was a kid. And that kind of pointed me in the right direction also.
And you spent a lot of your career in the Brill Building. So could you give our audience a brief history of why the Brill Building is so magical?
Well, it was the hub of the music business, right there on like 48th Street, 49th Street, and Broadway, in the middle of everything. This building with Mr. Brill's statue on the top of the entrance.
I just walked by it 10 minutes ago.
Right. It had, figure out who was in there. Music publishers, managers, a recording studio, record companies, you name it. Shysters from all over the world with great people were in that building. And I remember Paul Simon once saying to me, he used to, when he was hawking his songs, he said, you go to the top floor and you walk down, because it's much easier to walk down and stop in all the publishers and all the managers' offices than walking up. You won't be able to sing too well. So that's why the Brill Building was so magical. Bobby Darin had his offices in there, of course. Tons of record companies and managers and a lot of music publishers which was the easiest access into the music business. So that's why people went to the Brill. But there were people, the hallway downstairs was like an echo chamber. And once in a while, you'd hear a group just plop themselves in the hallway and start to sing their songs or something famous like Blue Moon or one of these oldies. And that's why and you could go to the little coffee shop. There was a Greek coffee shop adjacent right in the building. And if you're having coffee, you never know who you're going to sit next to. You might sit next to, somebody really famous that can help you out. So everybody went to that place. And across the street was another building called 1650, which is directly across the street. And that housed the other music publishers and the other managers. So you'd spend your days walking between the buildings until somebody stopped and listened to you,
And who are some of the just struggling music writers who we know today?
Well, Carole King was there. Neil Sedaka was in those buildings. Barry Mann and Cynthia Wilde were just starting out. These people, they wrote the biggest hit of all time. You've Lost That Love and Feeling and 30 other hits. There were people all over there. The singer-songwriters were abundant. Neil Diamond was walking back and forth between buildings. I actually sang on some of his early demos. It was amazing. The first time I walked into a music publishing company that signed me was Don Kirshner's music company that Paul Schaefer, talks about a lot. But I was there 10 years before when he had his own publishing company just starting out in that area. And when I walked in the office, I met Tony Orlando the first day. Neil Sedaka was in a leather coat sitting at a piano writing. Carole King was over here writing in another cubicle. There were all kinds of cubicles. So it was an amazing time. You can't get in any place anymore. They'll arrest you if you walk in with your guitar. They think you're going to blow the place up. Then everybody was open to you. You could get in.
Did you go door to door? Because Tony was on the show with us, and he told us that the same thing that I've heard you say. You'd knock on a door. Some of them would let you in. Some of them would throw you out.
Yeah,
was that the process?
That was the process, And a lot of music publishers, if they see you walk in, you don't look like you're going to, just hold them up. You have a guitar with you, they'll listen, and the quality of your song sells you, or the quality of your voice, and it was easy access. And I remember a lot of my friends got in that way, and look at what came out of it. The songs still last.
Of course.
I mean, we listen to them every day.
And you are the lead singer of the Archies.
Yes.
And you wouldn't use your name in those.
Well, I was supposed to be anonymous. It was based on the cartoon comic that was out since 1942 or something with Archie and the gang, and it was a TV series that Don Kirshner was doing the music supervision of. And I heard about it, and I said, I got to call Donnie. I know him. He's my old publisher from 5-6 years ago. And I said, I'd like to come up audition for The Voice. He said, no problem. Come on up. I went up to the studio. They listened to me. They said, oh, you're the guy. And I got the job as the lead voice of the Archies. And we did a TV series for 4 years on CBS. It was all cartoons. In fact, when the record went #1, I said, oh, great. Maybe you'll know my name. No, nobody knew my name. Ed Sullivan played the cartoon. He said, now, right here, the Archies. And my mom called me and said, you're on. I said, I'm not quite on. My voice is on.
Did you? Go ahead, Gil.
No, I was going to say, I'm sure a lot of guys, when the Archies was on, jerked off about Betty and Veronica. Now, what was very upsetting to me, considering all the times I've jerked off to them, is that the singing voice of Betty and Veronica I heard was you.
No. I just did a falsetto. Don't get crazy on me. This used to go south really quickly. Oh, yeah.
14 minutes in, Ron.
Yeah, here we go. No, I just sang one record where I sang falsetto. It was called Jingle Jangle. It was a follow-up to Sugar Sugar. And the real girl voice, Toni Wine.
So great Toni Wine.
Great Toni Wine singer. She wrote Groovy Kind of Love and, Candida. She's a terrific writer. She's on the Tony Orlando tour now with him. Anyway, Toni Wine was the female voice of both girls. And but they placed the key It didn't sound right, so they asked me to sing falsetto on it. That was the only thing, so you don't have to worry about...
Do you feel better, Gil?
I can continue jerking off to the old cartoons.
The girls were so beautiful in the comic books, weren't they?
Oh, my
Betty
God.
and Veronica were gorgeous girls. They're so beautiful. Do you know they actually had the same face? It's just different hair.
Oh, wow.
That's
I never
interesting.
thought of that.
That's interesting.
Take a look at it. It's the same face.
But I still always liked Veronica. Thought she was the sexier
But
one.
Mr. Weatherby didn't do it for you?
Or Mrs. Grundy. Yeah. If you're getting off to Mrs. Grundy, you're in trouble.
Yes.
Mrs. Grundy. I love that. Well, before Kirshner...
Wait.
Go ahead.
Can you sing the falsetto part of that song for us, please?
Sure. It was like, ever since I met you, I couldn't want you better. I couldn't love you stronger if I tried. That's my fake voice. It's my true heart I'm showing, or my nose would be growing. You know that it gets longer if I lie. And then I was singing la, then we did the la la la. I kind of felt like, this is a little lightweight for a guy, especially Italian guy from Staten Island. I'm singing like my Aunt Minnie. And if anybody knows about it, I'm going to get hassled at the gas station when I go to get gas and when I go down to the local social club. So I kept that under wraps, because you want to be, kind of masculine.
And I was whacking it as you were singing now.
As long as you don't do it now, because I can see you now.
Yeah, we should tell our listeners we're looking at Ron over video, and he's in Earwolf Studios in L.A. and he can see us, so Gilbert can't get away with anything.
I see Gilbert starting to take his shirt off.
Well, speaking of doing voices and the versatility, your versatility, you were doing. If I have this right, when you went in to do Sugar Sugar, you tried different sounds and you finally settled on Donovan.
Yes, I figured on Sugar Sugar especially, it was a really cool song. It was simple, but I figured Jeff Barry and
Andy Kim.
Andy Kim, who wrote it, they were hit makers. Those guys had hits already.
Sure.
I knew they had a chance. So I thought about the melody, and as I was starting to do my vocals, I was trying to imagine who would be singing this, what kind of a sound I could get it. And I wanted a breathy sound. So I was thinking of, they call it Mellow Yellow, right, his Mellow Yellow song. And I went, sugar, honey, honey. And it came out my own sound, but in my head I was doing Donovan Leitch. I was doing his voice, and it kind of worked. Sometimes when I was doing commercials years ago, I would think, who would do this? Elvis? Who? Because you have to make up voices for commercials, and So, but that's who I was channeling that day, and I finally get to meet Donovan, and he was a terrible guy, so I didn't want to.
Oh my God! Oh,
it was
tell us.
very mean to me, very cold. Oh, I'll sign your autograph. That's $40. I said, get out of here.
Wow!
Oh, I love that.
He wants the dirt. All he wants is the dirt, Ron.
I can give you dirt. Wait till we get into the movie section of it. Okay.
Let's go back to Kirshner for a minute, because years before Sugar Sugar happens, you're making the rounds of the Brill Building, and meeting Kirshner was an early turning point.
It was the biggest turning point. I mean, he was the biggest guy in the music business at the time. He was on the cover of Billboard and magazine, and of course, Cashbox and Record World. There was a picture. The day I walked into his office, there was a Billboard and a Cashbox in the entry room, and there was a picture of him on a locomotive with Little Eva and Carole King. They just had this number one song, Locomotion. So he was the hottest guy in music. There was no bigger publisher, independent. I mean, he published like 30 hits that year. And boy, he knew how to promote. So I was really honored when I got to meet him. And of course, his songwriters heard me sing, and then they took me into his office, and he had a white piano with drinks inside one pocket and jelly beans in the other pocket. He was a sugar addict. He loved sugar. And he listened to me sing, and he said, "Kid, I'm going to give you a publishing job. You'll be the demo maker. I'm going to pay you $50 a week." And I turned it down. I said, "I want 55." I was negotiating at 17. I said, "No, my dad's out of work. I got to get an extra $5 a week." So he said, "No problem, kid." But he changed my life, Don Kirshner. He was a good guy. He helped a lot of songwriters before they became stars. He gave them their jobs and paid them money each week.
It's a hit maker.
And is it true that around the time when the Monkees were at their angriest, wanting to get out of their contract, Kirshner offered them Sugar Sugar?
Yeah, I mean, that's the story. I think he may have offered them a song with sugar in the title or something. But I've contacted the writers of Sugar Sugar, both Andy Kim and Jeff Barry, and they both said they wrote it directly for the Monkees, the Archies, and so I think it got a little convoluted.
Yeah.
I hope they turned it down, because it became a 6 million seller that year. 6 million.
That's the number one record of the year.
It was unbelievable. The power of it worldwide. People didn't even know what I was singing about. They just heard Sugar Sugar and they liked it in every country. So the Monkees, they had a problem with Donnie because he gave them too many hits. That's basically what it is. He gave them hit after hit after hit. They said, no, we don't want that anymore. We want our own songs. And that was the end of the Monkees. I'm sorry to say, I love Mickey Dolenz.
You've said history would prove them wrong, and I think it has.
You never can tell, It's just they don't bite the hand that feeds you. They insulted the hand that fed them at the time, and it was a bad move, I thought. But Mickey Dolenz and Davy Jones are great guys, guys in general. I see them all the time.
I heard Don Kirshner. In an interview, he was talking about how the Monkees wanted control, and Don Kirshner's line was, "You don't let the passengers fly the plane."
It's interesting.
It's very close, because they were all cast as actors.
Sure,
right? They were actors who were cast to be in a TV group. They didn't begin in the bars and on the road. They went from obscurity to super fame. And I think it just got them crazy, because they figured maybe we can write the hits. It depends, but they should be in the Rock and Roll of Fame, in my opinion. I like the Monkees. I think their hits were big enough. There should be a separate section in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for those guys.
Absolutely. And you're still in touch with Mickey. We had Mickey on the show.
Yeah, I see Mickey. I see he's on tour this year with Mark Lindsay. They're calling the Summers of '67. Summers of Love.
Yeah, great guy. We loved Mickey. We had Mike here too. We had Nesmith too.
Both were great guests.
Yeah, they remember things. They were there and they remember. I have a lot of friends. You probably have friends that don't remember what happened.
Gilbert doesn't remember lunch.
No.
What?
I'm forgetting this interview right now.
So I want to go back, Ron. You're in the Brill Building. You're doing demos for people like Connie Francis and Sedaka, and were you recording your own stuff at this time? Were you encouraged to record your own stuff?
Not encouraged as much. I did a lot of demos for those writers. They had songs that weren't hits sometimes, and each time the demo sounded really good. I would say to Mr. Kirshner, "Can we get a record company to put this out?" He said, "No, we're showing it to the Animals, we're showing it to Herman's Hermits or Gary Lewis and the Playboys, and they would record it." So I wasn't being prompted to record yet, but a few years in, I started to get offers from people to record.
And you mentioned Little Eva before. Now, is that true that Little Eva was Carole King's maid or babysitter?
That's absolutely true.
I never knew that. True. That's great.
Yeah.
How'd you come up with that, Gil? He surprises me every now and then, Ron.
Yeah, Little Eva, I think they were talking, and she was her maid or babysitter. And she said she wants to be a singer. And I think Carole King wrote a Locomotive for her.
Locomotion.
Yeah.
Locomotion.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. I did not know that.
Yeah, and you're right. And she sounded great on it, Little Eva. She did. She doubled her voice. They did multi-track on it, so it was thick. And you do that for, when you want it to be a stronger sound vocally. And I think that's what they did with her. It was a big hit. It's been recorded, 2 or 3 times, the same Grand Funk Railroad had a hit with
sure,
it, right?
Sure.
Gilbert, we should record it someday, you and I.
Hey, you want to know something? Frank Verderosa.
Well, Frank will find the
lyrics. We are going to sing it tonight.
Sing the Locomotion. But I talked to our mutual friend Paul Schaefer, Ron. I told him you were coming on. I said, "Do you have any questions for Ron?" He wanted to know about the detergents.
Oh, you'll appreciate this. My first hit after Mr. Big Singer having a group and playing CYO centers, I get my first hit record. It's called "Leader of the Laundromat." It was based on a parody of Leader of the Pack by the Shangri-Las.
Yep.
It's all about a motorcycle love affair that goes wrong and he gets killed. So my friend's uncle wrote a song called Leader of the Laundromat, which was a hysterical thing, but it's talk and it's singing. It's like my girl was always putting me down. My laundry came back brown. It was like, so it's an amazing song, and we actually had a hit with it on Roulette Records.
You did.
So between you, Roulette Records was owned by the mob.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that, Morris Levy.
Yes, and we met with him, and he said, "You kids are not going to get any money on this record." It sold about 900,000 copies as a novelty record, 1965, right? We didn't see a penny. We went to him. He said, "Listen, kid, I'll show you the books, but we keep 2 sets anyway. So go out on the road, make some money." And we went on the road with Dick Clark's Caravan of Stars, and the Shangri-Las would sing Leader of the Pack, and then they would introduce us. And me and my buddies would come out and do Leader of the Laundromat.
That's great.
and they would throw records at us. I mean, we once had a promotion where we gave out albums, and I remember halfway through the song, I saw coming through the lights, they're like these shiny objects being thrown at me. The albums were being thrown back on the stage.
Wow.
It was one of those things. But it was great. The detergents were funny. We did Soupy Sales. We were on the Soupy Sales show singing it live. Yep. We did Hullabaloo and Shindig and a whole bunch of things.
Sure.
But the Soupy Sales show was great to do.
And tell us about that record label, because we both heard stories.
Well, yeah, Tommy James is really the guy to talk about that, about it, the roulette, but the stories are infamous.
Well, if you read Tommy's book, I had no idea what was going on in that
shocking.
office. I understand how much money was being paid to radio stations and jukebox owners to play records, and then they would like never pay the artist. Tommy never got a royalty check. He said, right? He said he'd have to go up there and say, "My uncle needs an operation," and Morris Levy would give him like $5,000 or $10,000. That was it. So it was an interesting thing. The record producer that produced our record wanted royalties. And he had a physical fight with Morris Levy. I don't know how he survived, because Morris was a big guy. He was like the bouncer. He was the bouncer. Hey, kid, he was a tough guy. And he wasn't in the movie. They portray him as a smaller man. He was a big 6'1", 6'2" guy, starker. He was
starker,
right? He was the guy you didn't want to mess
Italian guy
with.
speaking Yiddish.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, but before you were the Detergents, you were a surf group called the Cabin Crew.
That was a Don Kirshner genius idea. He said, we need an East Coast Beach Boys. So my friends who were in the Detergents with me, he said, go write about a dozen surf songs, East Coast cabin songs about a boat. Right? I said, we got to write about boats? So we wrote some songs about boats. We took some pictures, nautical pictures, and then that fizzled, but we used the nautical pictures for the detergents. So the first detergent thing, we got caps on, and we were behind a railing on a ship, and nobody noticed that. Nobody cared about it. But that was a Kirshner brainstorm. And if the detergents didn't happen, maybe the Cabin Kids would have happened, because he knew how to promote. He was the P.T. Barnum of music. I mean, when we released the Archies album, do you know what he rented? He rented Madison Square Garden for a publicity basketball game. And I was the center. And I'm not the biggest guy in the world. We played against the Harlem Globetrotters, right? And they beat our ass.
Wow. What's the? I like "Leader of the Laundromat." It's a fun novelty song. What's the history behind "Who's That Banging on the Piano"?
It was just because in the Shangri-Las record, there's a lot of bong. Ooh,
oh, it's part of the parody.
It's bong. It's part of the parody. So we said, well, who's banging on the piano? Because the Shangri-Las have just this big piano chord hitting all through it. It was a great record, actually, Shangri-Las.
Paul Vance, who's still with us.
I felt so messy standing there. Shorts were everywhere. Tenderly I kissed her goodbye. Picked up my clothes, they were finally dry. But I won't forget your love, oh leader of the laundromat. Who's that banging on the piano? I don't know.
It's so funny how things come around. The writers of Leader of the Pack was one Jeff Barry.
Sure.
So Jeff went on to write Sugar Sugar 4 years later. But at the time, they had every right to sue, and they got the publishing on it. You know, the writers of the original song deservedly got their money.
Wow. It's just funny how careers go, and then how you wind up, and then Barry winds up playing a pivotal role in your career.
Big role. If he was involved in the Archies, who knows what would have happened
with Sugar Sugar.
Yeah.
Did Joey Levine also audition, the writer, the singer of Chewy Chewy and Yummy Yummy Yummy? Did he audition to be Archie as well?
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Joey and I are very good friends, old friends. We used to write together and do commercials together. He became a huge commercial producer and writer. But Joey, I think, was they were thinking about Joey for the lead voice of the Archies, but I struck a better deal.
I love it.
And you were saying about that singer Tony James, I think it is.
Tony
Wine, yeah.
Tony Wine, that on the record, people were saying, who's that black girl singing on it?
That's right.
I'm going to make your life so sweet part.
Yeah, she did both parts. She did I'm going to make your life so, and then she did the high part. And I would get people stop me on the street and say, I love your new record. It's great. Who's those sisters singing? Because they have lots of soul. And they don't realize Tony's, she's a great soul singer. She's one of those street singer type voices like Ronnie of the Ronettes. She has that same kind of edge. You always know her voice. And she was great. Thank God for her on the records. She added so much.
She was at Joe McGinty's place last year. Tony Wine singing live. I got to see her.
Oh, wow.
It was a treat. She did Candida. And she did Groovy Kind of Love.
And
two songs she wrote.
Sugar.
She was like a Jewish girl from Brooklyn or something.
Yeah, yes, that's right. And everybody thought she was a sister.
And Ray Stevens is in there too, doing hand claps. Is that true?
He came to visit the session that day with Tony. She was good friends with him, and he said, "Can I do something on this record?" It's Sugar Sugar, right? And so he said, "Sure." Everybody hand claps. Come on out. And that was the big sound in those records, were hand claps. In fact, every Jeff Barry record has hand claps. It's the sound, and it's his lucky thing. He puts his hand on everything.
I love it. Did you know? I mean, you had an ear for hits as well. I mean, did you know when you came out of the booth or when you heard the mix? Did you say? I know you said these guys are hit makers, so this has a chance. But did you have any inkling that this thing was going to be such a monster?
You know, I would love to say, yes, I knew immediately. I am a hit maker, and I knew a hit. I didn't know that night. I did a really nice vocal. I worked extra hard on it. I doubled it, and I added harmony to it. But it was among another 30 songs, during those weeks.
Sure.
So I wasn't sure about it. And I had heard that when it came out, the DJs were hesitant to play it. So some DJ, promotion man for RCA and Kirshner up in San Francisco, took the label off and took it to a DJ and said, just play this as a ghost group, you don't know who it is, and see the reaction. And the phones lit up, I heard, and everybody said, well, now, who is it? And they said, it's the Archies again, because we had a couple of singles out before that. So, it was, but I didn't know that night. I wish I had, but Jeff Barry and his mixes, he did like an incredible board mix, just the way he did on I'm a Believer for the Monkees. He hired almost similar musicians on both records.
Boy, that song endures, Ron.
And you worked with Bobby Darin. And the thing I always heard about Bobby Darin was I think it was like every guy in his family died at a young age. So he was always haunted by that. Like he had to make it, because he knew he wouldn't live that long.
You're absolutely right. I mean, he was accelerated in his career. He couldn't get there fast enough. And he actually worked with Don Kirshner early on and split off and had Splish Splash was his first hit record. Sure. And he remembered Donnie had helped him, so he gave Don Kirshner a little piece of the publishing on that. And when I met him, he had his own publishing company. A very smart guy. He had gone into publishing, and I was hired as a songwriter at his publishing company. And he would come in every month and take a listen to some of our songs and give us tickets to one of his shows. I actually got to see Bobby Darin at the Copacabana.
Oh, wow.
I had never seen a live show like that in my life. He was a magnificent performer, unbelievable, magnetic. And he had two different personalities, though. One was he was a hippie in sneakers and jeans, and the next time he'd come in with a short hair and a suit and a tie, and he was Mr. Businessman. So you never knew who you were going to get when you worked for him. But he knew he was going to die young. He did. So that's why he went right into films. He got Sandra Dee.
Sure.
He moved his career along way quicker than some of the pop artists of the day. I mean, he went from Splish Splash to Mac the Knife. You think about those two songs. They're like totally different. One is a Frank Sinatra hit, and the other is, type of thing. And Splish Splash is just a pop song. So he was very smart. He's smart. He went to Hollywood, got his movie career going. And I heard the story that he thought his sister was his sister. His sister revealed to him that she was really his mother.
Yeah, it's a tragedy.
And that
tragic
his
story.
His mother was actually his grandmother.
Amazing story, isn't it?
Something similar happened to Jack Nicholson.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson, same exact thing happened to him.
Yeah.
See, those were times when people were ashamed of things and stuff. That boy, has it changed now? It's now nobody would care.
Two more cool things about Sugar before we move past it. I love this and doing the research, and I want to thank Laura Pinto, too, our mutual friend, who was incredible in helping with research. She knows absolutely everything about you. And she's a fan of this podcast, and when we told her you were coming on, she got very excited and sent me a lot of wonderful stuff. But Andy Kim didn't have a guitar pick, and he played with what during Sugar's recording?
The sound on Sugar is a matchbook.
It's great.
Instead of a pick. So it's flap, flap, flap on the guitar, but it's really cool because it adds rhythm to the guitar sound. And I don't think it's ever happened before. I kept thinking he's going to set himself on fire any minute. That matchbook's going to go up, and we're going to have a story for the ages. Oh, yeah, Andy Kim burned himself up playing Sugar on the original, but it didn't happen. So.
Yeah. Andy Kim, who later had a big hit with Rock Me Gently in the 70s.
Wow.
Yeah. And
number one.
Yeah, absolutely, number one. The other cool thing about Sugar, and I hope this is true, I found this, I hope that this is factual, the most produced recording in history because Post Cereal put a cardboard version of it on the back of Super Sugar Crisp boxes. Did you know that?
Yes, at the time it was on every grocery shelf.
They mass-produced it.
Yeah, you could actually cut the cardboard out from the back of the cereal box and play it like 20 times and before it disintegrated. But they are still around, those things, on eBay. People have kept them over the years.
Oh, really?
They have two. Yeah, they have two of my. I have a bunch of them.
I remember Mad Magazine used to have those records you could tear out.
Yeah, right. And they would destroy the needle on your turntable.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Horrible.
Who were some of the other groups, Ron? This is fun that you ghosted for.
Well, a lot of them were not successful.
Right.
But there were a lot of fun names. One was called the $2 Question. One was called
I love that.
Noah's Ark, right?
Well, that was on roulette too, right?
Yes.
Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark.
It was about Ronnie and I recorded under Ronnie and the Dirt Riders, Bo Cooper. I kept changing my name. I thought there were people after me. The amount of I must have done 20 different ghost groups, right? And 3 or 4 of them did pretty well. But you always got a shot. They put out a single. If the single succeeded, they'd do a whole album. So I just kept recording. And as I said in the beginning, I just kept saying yes. At a time when everybody's tied to contracts and they can't record for another label, I just kept changing my name. So people didn't know who it was, and they didn't care, And a lot of songwriters, I did their demos. They put the demos out as groups.
Right. Pearly Gate, California Gold Rush, Ronnie and the Dirt Riders. You did a song we've talked about on this show is Chirpy Chirpy Cheep Cheep. We do these episodes midweek, Ron, when we don't have a guest like yourself. We do these mini episodes, and we'll talk about one-hit wonders and just oddball songs or bands or artists who charted once. And Chirpy Chirpy Cheep Cheep came up, and you did a cover of it.
I did a cover of it. It was a really silly song, but it was really funny. I never knew what the hell it meant.
Can we hear it, please? Some of it.
Yeah. It starts off with a big beat, boom, boom, chick, boom, 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 chick, boom, 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 chick, and I come in. Where's your mama gone, little baby Don? Little baby Don, where's your mama gone? Where's your mama gone, little baby gone? Far, far away. Right? And last night I met my baby singing a song. Ooh-wee, chirpy, chirpy, cheep, cheep. It's like, I don't know what it meant, but it was a hit in England. They asked me to record it in America. Yes. No problem, and that was it. And it came out. It was a fun record. I never knew what it meant.
It's so funny because my next question was going to be, what is chirpy, chirpy, chirpy?
Right. What the hell? I don't know. It has no meaning. People, all kinds of crazy stuff.
I missed that era, Ron. I used to buy those records, the 1910 Fruit Gum Company on Buddha Records, man. I used to buy all that stuff.
Sure. I just worked with them last weekend.
You did? Are those guys around? Simple Simon Says?
It's 1, 2, 3, red light.
Red light, sure.
All those kitty. It's so funny. The guys are all grown up now, right? And they're kind of gray, and they're up on stage and they're singing and they're going, "All right, everybody in the audience, stand up." And half the audience can't stand up. But they're standing up, put your finger on the nose, put your hands up in the air, and the people are going, "I can't find my hands." It was a very strange concept, but they're very musical. These guys, you'd love them. They're great friends.
I hope to meet them. You remember that song, Simple Simon?
Put your hands in the air. Simple Simon says. Put them down by your side. Simple Simon says.
Oh, man.
And you'll never be out.
There's an organ in there.
Yes.
Or a farfisa or something. Boy, that is good stuff. Tell us about, and speaking of hit records, tell us about how the Cufflinks and Tracy came about.
Cufflinks were...
Paul Vance again.
This fella, Paul, yeah. Anyway, he's the uncle of a friend of mine.
Sorry to bring him up.
No, that's quite all right. The guy I used to write with, named Danny, that's his uncle. And
right, Danny Vance from the Detergents.
Right, and he introduced me to Paul, and Paul would call me over the years to do a demo or two of his songs. And this time he called me after Sugar Sugar had just come out, and a big hit, he called me up. He said, "Would you like to do this song Tracy for us?" And so I did a vocal on it. I did like multi-track my voices 3 or 4 times. I added another background group of my own. I kept singing until they stopped me. And it sounded like the association of one of the, grassroots. And it came out and it was a big hit. And it was in the top 10. At the same time, Sugar Sugar was in the top 10. So I had 2 records in the top 10 at one point, 1 and 9. And people still didn't know my name, but it was cool. It was just a great kick to have your voice on the radio at the time.
Right. I've heard you say, even though you were anonymous, you knew that having 2 top 10 hits was going to lead to big things.
Well, it had to. I mean, the voice, people were getting used to my voice. They liked it. The songs were good. It kicked off my jingle career big time. People on Madison Avenue had, they weren't able to hire somebody who has hit records on the radio this week, so they were starting to call. And they would say, "Do you want to sing for Budweiser? You want to sing for American Airlines?" I said, again, yes, no problem. I'm there. What time? 8 a.m? I'm there. And so that's what led me to it. It was a great kick to have it. And it was for a singer to hear your voice on the radio. It's a great kick. It's like watching a video of your own concert. You go, wow, I did that.
Tracy, you're gonna be happy with me. I'll build a world around you, filled with love everywhere. And when you're there, you'll be so glad I found you. Come with me, don't say no. Hold me close, Tracy, never, never, ever let me go.
I do love that song, too. Let's talk about, too, the commercials, since you bring them up. And Gilbert was very impressed when I came into the studio tonight, and I was telling him how many commercials you did and how many are kind of iconic.
Yes. Can you sing a couple of the jingles you remember?
He does it in his act. You do it in a live show, don't you, Ron? You do a little commercial medley?
Yeah. Let's see. You deserve a break today, so get up and get away to McDonald's. Thank you very much.
Wow, he still hits the notes.
Wow.
And I like one. Sometimes you feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't. Mom and Joy's got nuts. Boom, Mounds don't. Something like that. Really cool. There was a really cool one. I drink Dr. Pepper and I'm proud. I used to get lost in a crowd, but now you look around these days. Seems to be a Dr. Pepper craze. Boom, boom, boom. I'm a pepper, you're a pepper. He's a pepper, she's a pepper. Wouldn't you like to be a pepper too? Be a pepper, drink Dr. Pepper. All right.
That's fantastic.
Wow.
Is that your voice in the famous Dr. Pepper commercials where David Naughton is jumping around and...
No, that I did all the radio spots.
You did the radio
spots. Some of the TV spots, but David sang and danced in that spot. He was just great.
He was
just great. I don't like to take credit for David's stuff.
Sure. Sure, I was mistaken. Yeah. So many commercials. There was Lifesavers. There was KFC. And didn't Barry wind up writing some of those jingles?
He wrote a couple.
There's some symmetry there, too.
Yes, I met Barry when we were doing a commercial. He had written like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. He wrote one of those and Band-Aid commercials, different things. And he was just getting started in the jingle business. But yes, Barry sang on a bunch of commercials. In fact, when I produced him early on in his career, he said, I've only got one hit when I go out to play shows. What should I do? I said, sing some commercials.
Oh, that was your idea.
Of course. I gave him the idea. I said, if you put this in the act, it's like 6 hit records if you do these different commercials. And it worked. People were singing along. He had a bubble maker on stage, was making bubbles as he sang like Lawrence Welk, and the people went crazy over it.
I was telling Ron before we turned on the mics that I saw Barry Manilow years ago at Forest Hills Tennis Stadium, and he not only did the commercial medley, but he took out the accordion.
Oh, yeah.
And he
loved
did
that accordion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was his source, the accordion. Before he played piano, he played accordion a lot.
Yeah. He played Lady of Spain. He finished. The crowd gave him a standing ovation. Then he said, would Billy Joel do this? He had such a great sense of humor. I'm looking at some... Go ahead.
His sense of humor was a saving grace because with all his romantic songs and those love songs and stuff, his live show, it shows what a nice guy he is. He likes his fans and he loves performing.
Yeah, you ever meet Barry Manilow, Gilbert?
Oh, yes.
He's a very nice guy.
As a matter of fact, we sort of worked together, even though we didn't run.
In what context?
There was a cartoon made by Don Bluth.
Is this the Pebble and the Penguin?
No, no. This
I know
was
he did that one.
Thumbelina.
Oh.
Thumbelina.
I was Barkley Beetle, and he did the music for it. And that was our connection.
Yeah, no, he loves to do those kind of things. Sure, I thought you might have opened for him at once because at one point in his career, all the comics, Joan Rivers, everybody, David Steinberg, everybody was opening for Barry. He didn't want a singer. He said, "I don't want a singer in front of me. I want to be the only singer on the bill." But I love comics, so all the comics would open for him at times. I thought you might have done that at one point. You would have been great to open, like do your act before him. It would have been a great combination.
That would blow my mind to go see you open for Barry Manilow.
I mean, come on. I mean, it just got to be great.
I don't think I would recover from that. What were some of these? He's a very nice guy. I worked with him on a couple of talk shows. Very sweet and a great sense of humor and a lover of comedy and old movies. Really knows his showbiz history.
He does,
which we appreciate.
Yeah.
What was Devil's Shake? I'm looking at some of these other things. Do you remember these things that you sang for?
Well, I sang for products you've never heard of because I was suffering from a Coke problem that tasted like rust, and they wanted us to do it.
What was that?
Do a great commercial. It was I forget what it's called. It was horrible, But Devil's Shake. The reason that's probably in my bio at some point because it was one of the very first commercials I ever sang in show. And it was what a great thing to And I hired a bunch of my friends to sing with me, so it was like a real great event to sing. It was a test product also for like a chocolate drink.
Right.
It was great. I worked for the very best jingle producers in New York City. A girl named Susan Hamilton had an incredible company. Steve Carman was a very, very famous jingle guy. Wrote the Budweiser spot.
Sure.
Tijuana
Won a bunch of Cleos.
And there was a crazy guy named Joe Brooks who wrote a ton of commercials I sang on, including the Pepsi commercial with Hal Linden doing the announcing. And it's amazing that they were multi-million-dollar companies based on just writing a 60-second spot. It was amazing.
Another podcast connection, Hal Linden.
Oh, also, I realized you're the second person to sing the McDonald's commercial. We also had John Amos.
We had John Amos here on the show, and he's in he's in one of those early spots with Anson Williams.
Sure.
Yeah.
They did millions of those spots. They were great, And a lot of singers in New York City got their exposure and got their training on those commercials. Michael Bolton, a whole bunch of people used to sing aside me on the commercials.
You think it's a bit of a dying art, Ron? Because I don't hear the kind of jingles that we grew up with.
Oh, no, they're gone. They're gone. I mean,
the artistry.
The most music you get today is, I'm loving it. I mean, that's a spot. Somebody got paid to write, I'm loving it, for McDonald's.
Yeah.
Where's the music? So it really died out because now they use a famous song. If they
There's
need
a lot of that, yeah.
They'll use Happy Together for a commercial. They'll license something, but the jingle houses have passed away, I think.
That's too bad.
John Lennon said in an interview that he thinks, like when he watches TV and hears commercial jingles, they're as good as any of the Beatles' early stuff.
Wow. That's a great compliment.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, that stuff, those are the earworms, but the stuff that we grew up on, there was real artistry to them.
Well, they had to get to the hook.
Yeah.
In 30 seconds and pound it home by 60 seconds. That's really what the jingle produced. So you have to accelerate the amount of catchy melody and hooks as quickly as possible. And that's why some of those great commercials of the past still sound great. You hear Budweiser, here comes the king, here comes the king, here comes the king, number one. Budweiser beer, Budweiser.
That's great. It's very musical.
And
I should be getting paid for this.
We'll
I should be getting royalties on this. I'm doing all these commercials. I'm going to sing for Cadillac. Wait, no, I'm kidding.
Paul Williams had a number one song.
Oh,
which
yes.
We've only just begun, which was a bank commercial.
Very good, Gil.
Yeah.
You're impressing me tonight.
No, you got it. That's right.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful commercial, and what a great record, by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
We've only just begun to live what lesson promises. A kissful look and we're done our own. We've only just begun.
Watching Ron Dante on a screen laughing at your Paul Williams impression.
That's very funny. That's very funny. Okay, no.
True surrealism.
That was mean.
It's a truly surreal moment. We were talking to our friend Danny Duraney is here, and he said, we came into the studio. He said, "Oh, Ron Dante." He said, we got to talk about the Chan Clan."
Chan Clan. I love Charlie Chan growing up. Those are great movies with Cindy Tola.
Sure.
Right, and all these different guys. But they
Warner Oland.
Yeah.
Oh, and the last one was Roland
Winters.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes, right. I love those movies. The Number One Son. I loved him. Actually, Don Kirshner, again, came to me and said, we're doing a cartoon series based on Charlie Chan and his family. And I want you to write 10 or 15 songs for it and sing it and be the group. So it's the Archies again. I wrote a bunch of songs with my good friend Howie Greenfield, who was a famous songwriter.
Sure, of course. Breaking up is hard to do.
Break Us Up is hard to do, and Love Will Keep Us Together. Amazing songwriter, wrote all those Neil Sedaka hits. We got in a room, in about 2 weeks, we knocked out all the songs for the Chan Clan, and we sent them out to California to be animated, like, your stuff. And it came back, and here's the family, and I loved it. But it's just like the Archies. I didn't change my voice. I didn't come up with a different take on it. I just gave them what I do. And it was fun to see it for a while. It was the first Asian America cartoon series on a network on CBS, and it was a first.
You couldn't do it today.
I guess not.
No,
it's not happening that much.
Key Luke was the Charlie Chan was the voice of Charlie Chan.
Now,
great Key Luke.
Didn't he go on to be the old man in Kung Fu? Key Luke.
I think that sounds right.
Yeah,
that sounds right. And I think Robert Ito, who went on to be Quincy's sidekick, was the actor doing was also on Chan Clan. Yeah,
no, there was a lot of good actors in that doing the voices, because voiceover is a great business, right? Everybody wants it. It's easy. You come in your pajamas and you sing or act. It's great.
Right, you're like the guy who could just do any kind of voice, any kind of gig. It's a commercial, it's an animated series, it's whatever it is. You're there and you're adapting.
Well, I'm a journeyman singer. I started off as a singer. I'll end as a singer. I got into producing. I got big things going on, but basically, this is what I do. And I love it. I still sing. I still make records. If I produce somebody, I sing backgrounds for them because that's what I love to do. And it is funny. When you do something you love, it leads you to all the other things.
Yeah.
They come along. The opportunities come along. And I've been very fortunate. I was in the right place at the right time with my guitar, and my demeanor was something that people wanted to work with. They liked me, and I liked them.
You're a chameleon, Ron, and I mean that as a compliment. I mean, you really you really can do anything.
Was it Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? Who was the actors who spent
Frederick
Spencer
March
Tracy?
and Spencer
Frederick March.
Tracy.
He didn't change that much. He just kind of bent over and his hands got crooked in the movie.
John Barrymore.
That's
did
it.
that.
Right.
He did it.
He would open his eyes really wide and stick his chin and bottom teeth out and curl his fingers. So they saved on special effects.
Definitely, he gave them a special effect without any help. Amazing. I loved him.
He was like a real theater actor, Jekyll and Hyde.
He was great. Towards the end of his career, when he did television and stuff, they had to put the lines up on outside the camera angle, and he would just be reading his lines, and he still sounded and acted great. He just didn't want to study his words, and he didn't want to commit it to memory. He said, hell with it.
And he was bombed out of his skull more often than not.
Yes.
And since you brought up Spencer Tracy, was Spencer Tracy did he somehow inspire Tracy by the cufflinks?
It could have been. It could have been because the fellow who wrote it was a fan of Spencer Tracy. I'm sure something had to do with that name because there weren't that many girls named Tracy in 1969.
Right. Interesting.
Ever since then, there's a lot more. Every time I go to my concerts, I mentioned it, and girls scream, and the drunk girls run to the front of the audience and try to get on stage with me. And they're Tracy's. I say, well, see, you're probably, how old are you? And they go, bye-bye. And I go, that's about the right time. You never can tell.
Let's talk a little bit too, but as we wind down. Just talk about working with Barry. You met him at a jingle session.
Yes, we were singing some product for Coke that tasted like rust, but he arranged it, and I remember it was a really good arrangement. The band played great. It was really cool. It was 60 seconds of pop hit, and I was one of the hired singers along with Melissa Manchester and Valerie Simpson of Ashford and Simpson.
Oh, very cool.
And Barry and I were the two guys, and they were the two girls, and we sang that day. And it was what a great sound we all made, right? All good singers.
Of course.
And after the session, Barry said, I know you're from the Archies and the Cufflinks, and you're doing jingles. He said, I'd like to record. I said, well, do you write? He said, I write. I've got some great songs. I said, well, let's meet in a day or so, and let me hear your songs. And I met him a couple of days later, and he told me he was working with this girl, Bette Midler, who was working at the Continental Baths with him, and he said she's got a record deal, but I don't want to, I want to be a singer. I don't want to be her arranger, and I don't want to be the guy in the piano pit behind her. And I listened to a few of his songs. He played me "Could It Be Magic," one of those that based on the Chopin prelude that he wrote. And wow, I said, well, this is quality, and he sounded great. I said, let's go in the studio. We'll make like 4 demos. And we did 4 demos, and we arranged a showcase for the record companies at the Continental Baths, right? So we're sitting there, and we put the 4 record company presidents in the front row, and behind them are all these naked guys with towels and stuff. And if they like you, they throw the towels at you, right? So towels were flying that night. So the record company guys made an offer. They said, we'll give you an album deal. And we took an album deal with a small label. And we recorded our first album. And after that, about a year and a half later, the label changed hands, and a guy named Clive Davis came in to be the president. And he threw everybody off the label except Barry and Melissa Manchester and myself. So then we ended up recording Mandy. And that is so funny. One key change in a song made his career because it was called Brandy, as everybody mentioned.
Yeah, it was a different song, right?
It was upbeat, like hard rock kind of.
Yeah.
It was upbeat, definitely. It had tempo and stuff. And Barry, to his credit, slowed it down. He said, no, I can do it. How about like this, slow, nice ballad? And we recorded it that night. And there were just 3 pieces on it, bass, drums, and piano, and he sang a live vocal. And that's the live vocal on the record. It's like, when you do something really well, or when like lightning strikes, and you say, this was a great set, and I'm glad they caught it. That's what happened that night. You could just feel the electricity in the studio. We recorded at a place called Media Sound, which was a reconverted chapel. There were still pews in there and a stained glass, and I was praying for a hit, for sure.
Here in the city?
Yeah, right here in New York City, 57th Street. Right.
Well, not far from where we are.
Melissa Manchester, is it true that she's sweet Melissa, angel of my lifetime?
You're absolutely right. That's
Gil, you did research.
Yeah, very good, Gilbert. Gilbert's like the CIA today. He's unbelievable. He's got his secret sources and he's got his info. I love it.
He's on fire. Is it just the vocals? Is just you and Barry multi-tracking your voices?
Yes, on Mandy.
Yeah.
And same thing with I Write the Songs. It sounds like a choir, but it's just my vocal overkill. We multi-track our voices. I sing high, I sing low, I sing mid. Barry did the same, and we mix it all together. It sounds like 400 guys, and it's just the 2 of us on Mandy, I Write the Songs, Can't Smile Without You, any of our records. It's just, we called ourselves the Barons. I'm sorry. It's a bad joke.
You guys had the golden touch. I mean, Mandy, it's a miracle. Could it be magic? I Write the Songs, trying to get the feeling. This one's for you. Weekend in New England, Daybreak, Can't Smile With It. just keeps going on.
I'm exhausted. Frank, I'm exhausted again. I can't believe it. I'm getting so tired and winded thinking about we had 18 top 20 records in a row. We were from 75 to 80. We were the middle of the road songs, and I'm proud of them because they were really good songs. I knew a lot of good songwriters, so did Barry, and Barry wrote half of them. Yeah. But half of them came from different people.
Well, Randy Edelman and Bruce Johnston and Marty Panzer, I have to give them credit too for those great songs.
Absolutely, Richard Kerr,
David Pomeranz, who you've mentioned on previous.
Oh my God!
Richard Kerr and Will Jennings.
Yeah, David Pomeranz was doing the singing in the movie Zapped.
This is what he brought up on a previous episode.
Scott Baio and Willie Ames.
Right. You brought that up when we had Greg Evigan on the show.
And Scatman Crothers.
Wow. Love Scatman. Yes. That's a hell of a group.
The Scatman. Speaking of Greg Evigan, did you, and I did not see this directly in the research, but I'm sussing this out. Did you audition for the Greg Evigan, Paul Schaefer short-lived show that Don Kirshner produced?
I think I remember. I did. I auditioned
You're at the
for
top?
I did. I did. They wanted me to. The original concept was 4 guys or something like that, and they wanted me to wear a stupid hat. They said, you got to wear this stupid hat if you're going to be in the show. And I said, I've come a long way. I don't have to wear this stupid hat to get in your pilot. And so I turned it down. And then Paul, of course, came around and they changed the whole concept of it, what was happening.
Right.
And I was very happy for Paul because he's such a great guy. He helped me he was the only piano player that I could hire on Barry Manilow sessions. I brought Paul in to play on Bandstand Boogie and a whole album. And I remember Barry was very picky about who else was on keys in his sessions, but he loved Paul. Because Paul had that great, when he shows up, you love the guy.
Of course.
And he's a super talented keyboard player. He knows every pop song known to man. He can play the happy organ, which you tried with my comics. No. I remember that.
I'm a master of the happy organ. Yes.
What was his name? Dave Baby, the guy that did the happy organ song.
Cortez.
Dave Baby Cortez. Remember?
Oh, can you sing some of that for us, please?
No, that's an instrumental. I need an organ. Wait.
Well, can you add words to it?
Well, just add words.
Paul produced one of your albums too, Street Angel.
Yes, I brought Paul. I got a label wanted to sign me and give me a solo album. Said, "Who do you want to produce with?" I said, I want Paul Schaefer to arrange it. And so we went down to the Bee Gees studio in Miami, Criteria. I said, "That's a lucky studio. The Bee Gees did all their hits out of the studio. Must be something magic in that studio." So Paul and I went down there for 3 weeks to Miami, and we went in every day and made records. And the studio stunk. The studio sound was the worst sound you've ever heard. The drums sound like it was hitting cardboard. They couldn't get a good sound. I took all the stuff back to New York to Media Sound, the chapel, and remixed it. And, of course, it all sounded beautiful. But Paul was great as a co-producer and arranger because he's got really good arranging chops. He doesn't use them that much, but he really can arrange a thing. I remember once I was doing a classical rock group. These twin guys who played grand pianos, and it was classical rock with da-da-da-da-da, to big themes. And my arranger, who I had hired first, didn't show up. With the arrangements, I had 30 pieces in the orchestra waiting for the arrangements. So Paul walks in. He's my keyboardist on the day. I said, Paul, you got to help me here. Write some arrangements quickly. He went to the back room. He wrote a string arrangement. He wrote a horn arrangement, some chords. He saved the date. Paul saved the date. It would have been a complete disaster. The arranger I had hired did classical work. I thought he'd be perfect for it, but he was, he didn't show up. He didn't show up. And what do you do when the arrangements don't show up? Paul Schaefer saved the day.
Did you guys go deep sea diving at some point?
We went deep sea fishing.
Deep sea fishing.
I took the entire band.
Can you imagine Paul Schaefer?
And everybody turned green. Paul Schaefer turned a deep purple green after about the first hour out there. We were catching sharks and minnows, and I was saying, let's have some beer. Let's have a sandwich. And everybody's sicker than dogs. My camera crew, everybody was sick. I have a picture of that somewhere. It's amazing. Afterwards, we caught a hammerhead shark. I've never fished in my entire life. I'm reeling in this 8-foot hammerhead shark. I said, I'm going to hurt my hand here. I can't play guitar with this hammerhead. Somebody else reeled it in. So that was the day. But Paul was a good sport about it. We went back into the studio the next day.
I have a mole who told me that, a friend I work with, a guy named Bob Lampell, who was there that day.
Oh my God, he was the videographer.
You bet. I work with him. Right. I work with him every day at ABC, and he said, "You asked Ron Dante about going deep sea fishing with Paul Schaefer." And it kind of blew my head.
It was such a disaster. It was never take people deep sea. I didn't know what it was about. I said, "Let's go out deep sea fishing." We're in Miami. What do? You go to Highlight or you go deep sea fishing. But that didn't work out. Yeah.
Now I got to ask you if you do a Paul Schaefer imitation, because you've worked with him so much.
That's a great question. That's great. If I would, I've never done it, but Paul is nasal. He's got a very nasal sound, and he goes, "Yes, David. Yes, David. Yes, whatever you want, David. That's good. Good, David. Keep talking. I'm fine here. I'm having fun with the band. You do what you want at the desk."
Pretty good. That's pretty good.
I hope Paul doesn't take
do
offense.
A little Schaefer, don't you?
Yeah.
Don't you?
Yeah. He would go, "Hey, Gilbert. That's funny in the beginning of the set."
And then he's got that sudden staccato laugh. That suddenly bursts out, and he bursts out into laughter. He's a fun guy. Paul is another guy with no show business history, boy.
He was just at my show a weekend ago in New York City, Staten Island. I played the St. George Theater there, and the 1910 was on the bill with me. The Happenings.
Sorry, we missed that.
And Herman's Hermits, Peter Noon, and I invited Paul to come, and Paul showed up. It was like 2 weeks ago. He's the best friend you could have. He loves to come to these things and enjoy backstage. So I took him backstage. He met everybody. We took pictures. He's just a great guy. He's out there touring himself with his band.
Yeah.
They're going to be here in Los Angeles, I think, in June sometime. Yeah, he's getting around.
We got to get Paul back on and plug those dates. And speaking of you being here, performing here, you're going to be back in. Do I have the Happy Together tour? Do I have the dates right? You're back here in June.
Yes,
at Westbury?
I'll be at Westbury, yes. And I'll be all over New Jersey and north of you and south of you. It's almost 50 dates.
It's you and our friend Howard Kalin.
That's right.
And Mark Volman and who else?
The Cowsills.
Oh, the Cowsills.
Oh. The Cowsills, they're great. And the Box Tops. Give me a ticket for an airplane.
Sure.
They'll be on the tour. The Association singing Cherish and Never My Love, and beautiful songs. And it's going to be a killer. Chuck Nygren from the Three Dog Night singing Celebrate, and some great stuff. He's a wonderful guy, and he still has great chops. So it's going to be a fun night. Please come.
Gil, we got to go to this.
You guys show up. Let me know if you want to come.
Westbury on June 16th. We absolutely would. Be good to meet Howard, too. We had him on the show.
Yeah, no. Email me so I know.
Absolutely. Are you willing to sing with this man, Ron? As we take this, as we wind this down, he did sing "Happy Together" with Howard. Last week, I'll have you know, he sang "Wichita Lineman" with Jimmy Webb.
Oh yes!
Oh my! What a kick! I live for these moments. So
now,
but I'm game if you are.
Okay.
Now we're not sure of your voice, but I'll carry you.
Oh my God!
What do you feel like doing, Frankie? Do you have that queued up? This is karaoke music.
So you'll
Ron.
start first, then.
I'll start. We'll point.
Okay.
Okay.
Here goes nothing.
Ah, sugar. Ah, honey. You are my candy girl, and you got me wanting you. Take it, Gil.
Honey! Ah, sugar. You are my candy girl, and you got me wanting you.
I just can't believe the loveliness of loving you. I just can't believe it's true. I just can't believe the wonder of this feeling too. I just can't believe it's true.
Ah, sugar! Ah, honey! You are my candy girl, and you got me wanting you.
Whoa, honey. Ah, sugar. You are my candy girl, and you got me wanting
When I kiss you, girl, I knew how sweet a kiss could be. I knew how sweet a kiss could be.
Pick it up your behind.
Like the summer sunshine, pour your sweetness over me. Pour your sweetness over me.
You're a little late.
Pour a little sugar on me, honey. Pour a little sugar on me, baby. I'm gonna make your life so sweet. Yeah.
Pour a little sugar on it, oh yeah. Pour a little sugar on it, honey. Pour a little sugar on it, baby. I'm gonna make your life so sweet. Yeah. Pour a little sugar on it, honey. Ah, honey. Honey. You are my candy girl, and you want me wanting you. Oh, honey. Sugar. You are my candy.
By the way, I don't want to alarm anybody, but Ron hanged himself with his earphone cord.
No, Jeff Barry just called the writer of the song. Just called. He jumped off a building.
But it was the Brill Building. If it makes you feel any better. We want to apologize to Andy Kim and to the great Jeff Barry.
That is a class. That's a classic rendition, though. That is funny.
Yes.
I want a copy of that. I do. I love it. I'm a kid. I love that.
We'll get that to you, Ron. It's not quite Wilson Pickett's cover, is it?
No, not quite. No.
Should we try locomotion?
It's head and shoulders above. We should do your animated from Aladdin and me singing together with you. That's what I see.
Be arranged.
When you do it, that's what I'm seeing.
Oh, you're seeing the parrot.
Yeah. I mean, it's perfect. It's just perfect. I got to get a copy of this. I love it. I'll post it.
You know, Ron. He is. I'm going to tell you quickly while you're looking up the lyrics. Some of the people he sang with. He just did. Do You Want to Know a Secret with Billy J. Kramer?
Oh man, I love Billy. Great.
Yeah, he did Wichita Lineman and MacArthur Park with Jimmy Webb. We did Tie a Yellow Ribbon with Tony. Who else? Who am I missing?
God,
There's a bunch.
Paul
Williams. You and Paul. Paul sang the Rainbow Connection.
Rainbow Connection and Nice to Be Around.
And he sang "Put on a Happy Face" with Dick Van Dyke.
And Supercalifragilistic.
So there might be an LP.
Good. There's definitely something's coming up here. That's very. And it's not me.
I think it's phlegm.
No, I'll be coming up afterwards.
You know what you need? We need the old K-Tel days, where the old the LP collections. All right, here you want to try? You guys are brave souls.
Right, I'll do the opening.
Okay,
part.
you do. Everybody's doing a brand new. Good. And
This should be good.
Okay. Everybody's doing a brand new dance now. Come on, baby, do the locomotion. I know you get to like it if you give it a chance now. Come on, baby, do the locomotion.
Little baby sister can do it with me. It's easier than doing it in ABC.
So come on.
God.
You gotta swing your hips now.
Come on. I'm doing a lot of come-ons. I got it. Come on. Jump back. All that stuff. Let me do it. Now that you can do it, let's make a chain now.
Come on, baby, do the locomotion.
A chugga motion like a railroad train now.
Come on, baby, do the locomotion.
Do it nice and easy. Don't lose control.
A little bit of rhythm and a lot of soul.
Come on, do the locomotion with me. Move around, jump back.
Do it holding your hands if you get the notion.
Whoa. Everybody's doing a brand new dance now. No, you get to like it if you give it a chance now. Take it, girl. Baby sister. This is going great.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
I forget what song we're singing.
This is great.
Oh, my.
What did we screw that one up? Carole King? She's not gonna. Carole King's
She'll never
not so
speak to you
beautiful
again,
today.
Ron.
Well, I usually work with better singers.
Oh, that's below the belt. No.
That man is Italian.
Oh, yes.
Think twice.
I'll call my cousin Gugu. He'll come over and talk to you. No neck, but very sweet.
You know, we had a shot at getting Carol on the show. And I think it just went on the boards.
That shot to shit now.
Oh, God. Ron, you may be the best sport we've had yet. You're a brave soul. I want to plug a couple of your records, too. The Anthology, which has wonderful stuff on it, particularly the song Charmer that I love. And also your favorite CD, where you do Rock Me Gently, you do The Grassroots, you do Happy Together, which I heard you say is a song you wish you had recorded.
Yes, very much. And now I'm going to hear it every night. Happy Together.
That's right.
I don't know about my favorite song at the end of the tour. I'll be going, oh, no, not that song again. No, I'm looking forward to seeing those guys and hearing it. It's going to be a great tour.
I tell you what, when we send you the copy of Sugar Sugar that we just did, we'll send you a copy of Gilbert and Howard doing Happy Together.
That would be great. I would love to hear that. This is a hoot. This is a hoot. You missed your callings, Gilbert. You've missed your callings. Let's get down to the fact that's a melodious sound you make. It's just come on.
So Ron, what else is coming up? The tour's coming up. What else are you doing these days? You're always busy.
I'm always busy. I am producing again. I'm producing two new acts. One is a Christian act named Jeremy Gaynor, who was on The Voice. And he's a sergeant from West Point, and we're doing an album together. I'm recording him. I think he's going to be a big star. And I'm also producing a new group called the Foucaults. They're originally from Long Island. They're a family group, kind of like the Partridge Family with edge.
Oh.
Yeah, with a little more rock and roll. And I'm working with them actually the middle of the month. So I do keep my hand in a lot of things, not just singing, but I love to produce. And and you'll hear about both these acts probably by the end of the year. And
wonderful.
Yeah. I have really enjoyed this. This has been the most fun I've had in a long time.
Oh, that's nice of you to say.
Thank you, Ron.
You're sweet. Thanks for doing it. Oh, I'm exhausted. I know Ron is.
So let me wrap this up. I'm Gilbert Gottfried. This has been Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal Podcast with my co-host Frank Santopadre. Once again at Nutmeg with our engineer Frank Verderosa. And we've been talking and, more importantly, singing with someone whose girl voice I've jerked off to. When you were the voice of Betty and Veronica.
No, he corrected you on that.
Yes.
He cleared that up.
But he did sing it today, so
I'm
I will.
honored by that.
I will be whacking it right after we get off the air.
Howard Kalin's going to be so jealous.
And we've been talking to singer, writer, arranger, producer, Ron Dante.
The man even worked with Max von Sydow, for Christ's sake.
Oh, my God.
Max
You
was a
were in The
wonderful
Exorcist?
guy. I was The Exorcist.
The great Ron Dante. My singing partner.
Ron, a personal treat for me.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for doing
Thank
this, man.
you.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy New York. I was just there. I loved it. I'll see you when I come to Westbury.
We'll see you in June.
Okay.
Thank you, buddy.